The struggle to afford fresh, healthy food in Colorado begins even before shoppers pull out their wallets. It's a challenge these days for smaller neighborhood grocery stores that are having difficulty affording what they want to be able to sell at a price that people can pay. Our Nusha Roy looks at that ripple effect across our state.
Zuma Natural Foods
in Mancos, Colorado,
is in a town that's used to being independent.
There's no place to grocery shop in between here and Cortez and in between here and Durango. So either direction, you're either driving 20 minutes or 30 minutes just to get to the town. There isn't public transportation to get in between. There's no cab service.
As much as a town of 1,400 depends on what they can find at Zuma, getting food there is tricky. The owner, Kate Wall, used to work closer to the metro area.
We were able to get 2 or 3 produce deliveries a day. The most that I'm able to get a distributor to come to my area is once a week.
She said her store is so far, it doesn't financially make sense for distributors to come by more often. Smaller stores also deal with additional costs when they accept deliveries, especially if they have to tailor it to fit their needs and capacity.
There's definitely a cost that gets passed along for sure.
Nourish Colorado said challenges around stocking shelves with fresh food and how much that ultimately costs for families is playing out across the state with around 700 small independent food stores.
Physically accessible, oftentimes very culturally accessible. A lot of smaller stores are managed or owned by someone who lives in that community or owned by first-generation immigrants.
Many times these are stores closest to families, and the ones families are relying on SNAP benefits can actually access.
And she had questions about why the cost of groceries that she could purchase with her SNAP benefit costed more in certain communities over others.
That's when Democratic Representative Serena Gonzalez Gutierrez started hearing from people worried about affording their groceries.
And we learned it was because of distribution.
So now there is a bill being debated in the Capitol to give $7 million to some of these smaller stores to help them cover some of these costs and ultimately make food more affordable. So one of the ways these grants could be used is to cover the technology that's needed for smaller grocery stores to actually even process the SNAP benefits so that families don't have to travel further to bigger stores and use them more easily closer to home. Ultimately, this would help 280 stores, right? So that's not near the 700 stores that are here in Colorado, but it's just going to depend on how the grants break down and if they can help more than that.
I think there's a similar supply line challenge with what I heard talking to people in Bent County for this week's Word of Thanks, where they said, operating as a food pantry, they're worried about their supply line, want to become more localized. What can they get from farmers and ranchers in case they can't rely on what they've always relied on?
Yeah, and that's interesting because Kate said the exact same thing, right? They said at one point during the pandemic, their food pantry didn't get a delivery for 3 weeks straight. That's really scary for that community where they're just not getting the food that they need. So ever since then, they've been looking at supply, they've been looking at driver shortages. How do you get food to drive, really far distances without spoiling? Again, just trying to be more self-sufficient so they don't find themselves in that place again.
Interesting to hear those challenges spanning rural Colorado, east to west. Thank you, Nusha.